Hey everyone, I am here today with Jacob Hagberg, and we just recorded, I'm going to be admitted here, we just recorded an awesome interview with him where he was explaining some SEO tips. And I'm going to back it up by saying I messed up because I have not done the live Hangouts before. I usually do the pre-recorded. Well, since I messed up, we decided that we were going to re-record this for everyone, not only for our SEO group to see this, but we're also going to, because I liked it so much and I think every business owner needs to see this, we're going to be putting it on our business growth time. So welcome, Jacob, and it's good to see you again 10 minutes later.
Thanks, Janet. Thanks for having me on the show now.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on. So can you please tell me first about your background and where you came from and what you do?
Yeah, I'm a full-time internet marketer. We help a lot of different small businesses and larger corporations get found online through search engine optimization. I know, Janet, you've got a background in social media, so it's a little bit different take, and I hope that I can share some valuable stuff for your followers.
Absolutely. I'm excited to have you on. Well, cool. Well, let's go ahead and get right into the presentation then.
Yeah. So let me go ahead and share screens here so we've got that. Let's go ahead and take a look at this website here, strathcom.ca. Now, a lot of you probably have .com websites, and this just happened to be a good one as an example. So we can look at their website. Looks like a very nice website, and then they've got a blog portion of their website. And so many of you small business owners may have been told that you need to blog to create content so that your visitors have new things to come back and view. And what I really want to highlight as important is make sure that you're not just putting words on a page. Make sure it's actually valuable and is something that you want your visitors to see and come back for. So with that being said, one of the most important things you can do to check up on and to see how well your SEO is if you're doing it yourself, or if you've got a different development company or an SEO agency doing it for you, you can use a couple of these tips just to see if they're doing a good job. So the first thing that you want to do is go to Google, because that's the big search engine that most people care about, and put in this command. It's site, like website, colon, and then yourdomain.com in there. So if my website was smallbusiness.com, I put site colon smallbusiness.com in there. And what this is going to do is return back all the different results that Google has for your website, all the different pages. So you can see for Strathcom here, it shows their home page as well as some different pages like their company page, kind of like the About Us you might have, their services page, careers page, and some resources. So let's take a look and let's find out, let's just pretend maybe they were working with an SEO company, and let's see if that SEO company was doing a good job. And the main point of this discussion and presentation is to find duplicate content. And so why is this really critical and important? When you're building a website and for your visitors, you don't want to show them the same thing more than once. That's like opening up a book, reading the first page, and that was really great content, but then you turn to the second and third and fourth page and it's all the same content, and you get to page 100 and it's the same. And even though you had one really good page, that doesn't make up for 99 bad pages. So a lot of times businesses are doing this without even knowing, and that's the scary part, because everybody's using WordPress. More than 30% of businesses are on WordPress. It's just sold as that really easy to use out-of-the-box platform. But what's difficult to understand is that WordPress isn't configured for SEO. So let's kind of take a look at a few of the most common mistakes that we see people making. And you can do a modifier search. Now I know this sounds really scary, but can do in URL and search for either tag or tags plural. You should do both. And what this is going to do is show all the different pages that are tag pages on a website. Now, what is a tag page? Let's go take a look. They've got one here for SEO. And what this is it's just a simple category that helps people navigate between different pages of the website. And at first glance, this seems completely harmless. In fact, it seems helpful. Like, having the reference of this post before I read it is about auto dealerships, best practices, online resolutions, SEO, and UX websites. That sounds like valuable information. But take note, I'm viewing this information on the website here, and that's what's really important. When you're doing this, you're really building a website for users, but you need to take into consideration search. Now, here's kind of the scary thing about this, is if we were to look at some of these other pages here, these other tag pages, so this one's called SEO, you can see that this post that they made, not too late, New Year's resolutions for your website. And again, this is a company telling you how to build your website and clean it up. And you can see that they're missing some critical things. And this isn't to knock on them, it's just something that gets missed so frequently. They're experts in some things, but they're not always experts in everything. So you can see this post starts out every year when January rolls around, you vow to get into shape. So let's take a look at some of these other pages. On this tag page here, you can see that same content. Now let's go to some other tag pages like auto dealerships and best practices. And you can see that the same content appears over and over, but it's just a different URL up here. So this one says auto dealership, whereas this one appears as best practices, just like this, but you can see that the same content is here. And now you're starting to see this concept take shape. These tag pages are creating duplicate content. But the good news is, in a couple of minutes, we'll show you how you can eliminate this issue, or you can take this issue up with your developer, web designer, webmaster, and kind of point these issues out to them, and they can take care of it for you. Because I know sometimes it can be a little bit daunting and a little scary to go into the back end because you don't want to mess anything up. Right, Janet?
Oh, that's a really good point right there, because that's the fear. I would suggest to anybody that's not familiar with this to not touch that area, just because you've got to be really careful not to mess things up. Correct?
Exactly.
Not understanding. Yep.
And if you mess something up, then they're going to charge you for it. And as an agency, that's one of the most frustrating things when you've got a client and they're going in and they think that they're doing really good things, but they're not. And that's just something that I really want to caution you about. And I know everybody loves to do it themselves sometimes, and it's a good learning opportunity. But this is the learning opportunity on the show, just to kind of double check and see, is the company you're working with doing a good job? So let's continue on. And tag pages is just one category on a website where you can have duplicate content. Now, what you see is also by default, WordPress has got these other ones here called archives. And when you look at when this post was made, January 27th, 2015, let's take a look at the January archive. And what you can again see up here, it's a new URL, and this is going to be indexed in Google. And again, it's the same content here. And that creates another issue. And again, here's another default setting in WordPress. I just really want to hammer this into you guys, how important this is. But look, it's written by Trish. So let's take a look at Trish's author page. So this is another category that WordPress creates by default, authors up here. And again, you can see the same post appears here with the same content. And so again, you can make the argument that, yeah, the page is a little bit unique, or the category page, but again, you have this some percentage is the same over and over and over again. And as your website builds up more and more duplicate content, it can lose favor with the different search engines like Google and Bing. And that's why this is important, because it can be fixed just by clicking a few checkboxes. And
And this is something that the average person can possibly fix some of these pieces?
Exactly. And Janet,
Okay.
we'll show you how to do this in 2 minutes or less. And that's
Wow.
it's just an easy fix. But again, you can just see the issues that we're having. And finally, again, you can see that it's in a category here, automotive. This might take a little bit of time to find the post, but as we scroll along, there are probably multiple pages here. And stop me if I miss it, but I might have scrolled right on past it if these are sorted by date. Did you see it by chance?
No, the words are pretty small for me.
That means Let's also zoom in.
Okay.
It might be on the next page here. So again, there's pagination that can create duplicate content as well as you create different posts.
And this is all duplicate content. How much, I mean, obviously there's going to be some, correct, that's going to happen?
Yeah, it's going to happen on every website, but you can see every single post is having this issue, and that's what's really scary.
Okay, got it.
Let's see if I can find that. Again, we're doing this live, and this is just a fresh example, and this is one that's different from the other group that we used. But again, if we search harder, we'd find this post on here. But let's just continue on for the sake of doing that. So what you want to do is log into WordPress or have your web into my dashboard here, and we've got the Yoast SEO plugin for WordPress installed. And
okay, so I'm going to slow you down a little bit just for people that don't have it. You're exactly right. It's Yoast SEO for WordPress. It's a plugin add-on. Can you also make your screen possibly one notch bigger? There we go. Perfect. That would be great.
So the most important tab, there are a couple important tabs, is titles and metas. And so what you want to make sure is out of the box, WordPress, Yoast WordPress SEO plugin does not have some of these boxes checked. So you definitely want to check this box here, no index subpages of archives. And this stops multiple pages from getting indexed by Google. So that was when we were going through page 1, page 2, page 3, because those can go on indefinitely. Most of these are checked by default. But then let's take a look at post types. So post types, these are going to be part of your blog. You definitely want these in index. This is definitely the main post that everybody thinks that they're creating. Same with pages. This is like your About Us, Help Us, Contact, Services, just typical pages that you'd expect to see on a business website that probably aren't going to be changing that frequently. So now, when would you use a post versus a page? A page is usually when you've got something static, whereas a post might be like a more timely news piece or press release, something that the date is important to. So the next tab that you want to click here is on taxonomies. And this is where we get into some of those funky things that we're talking about that are creating the duplicate content. So for example, categories. This is again where you can mess something up if you don't know what you're doing. So again, I'm just going to really caution you. Some people use categories and some people don't for their posts. And so if you don't and you never plan to, just simply check this box for no index. And the categories again was like putting it into like automobiles, like a high level search. And just to really reiterate and show an example, this was the category up here, Google and SEO.
Yeah. Don't most people use categories? I mean, wouldn't you suggest using categories?
A lot of people do. Not everybody does. And so that's why it's just important to know what your website does.
Got it.
And you can see a lot of people use tags here for internal navigation. It's just another kind of smaller subcategory. But again, it's not necessarily something that you want indexed in Google. So let's go back and take a look. And this is where you have the option of checking no index and follow, meaning Google can still access the page and they'll follow the links you have on the page, but they won't put this into the index so it doesn't harm you by creating that duplicate content. Optionally, webmasters, developers out there, you can hide this from your clients so that way they don't accidentally create additional tags. So that's a very, very powerful tool for developers.
Okay.
This other tab here, unless you've got multiple authors writing on the website under multiple accounts, in general, you want to no index but follow this author archives. And that's because that'll create a duplicate content piece for every single post that you create. And generally, if it's just one person doing all the content, just disable the author archives, and that can save a lot of problems.
Wow. Okay. So if it's one person, some have guest bloggers and that kind of thing. So you're saying with guest bloggers, don't want to do that. But if it's just one person, main author, like mine, I just have me, for instance. So I would want to have those check marked.
Exactly. There's no point in getting yourself in trouble, and it's not like you can't change it in a later date. You know, if you do add another author to your website.
What is the Yoast default?
So the Yoast default is there will be no checkbox in here. They'll have it
Okay.
indexable.
Okay, that's interesting. Oh, that's good to know.
And then finally, date-based archives. This sounds like something like you'd really want. Yeah, I'd want to know by the month and year where I could find a post. But when you're coming from Google, rarely are you going to be searching somebody's exact brand name plus the article name plus the date that it was found and the year. Usually you already know the post that you're looking for, and that's what's important to find, not the date-based archive where it sits. So now comparing that back to the website, again, that had to deal with these archives here in the right sidebar. And again, it's still navigable by your users on the website. Everybody can still find your different posts on the site. They can still use the search function. Doesn't impact that. It just only tells Google, hey, don't put these into the index because they're low quality and they're going to cause duplicate content issues.
Nice, nice. See, and the thing is, so many people are unaware of this because a lot of people will, well, including myself, will just set up those plugins and just go with what the default is. So it's really good information. Great.
Yeah. As you can see, for almost every good post that you think that you're making, because Google tells you create good content and people will link to you and you'll get better rankings, but out of the gate, every single time you make one good post, you're creating maybe 5 or 10 bad posts or bad pages that get added into Google's index. And so Google is wondering, why are you doing this? This isn't what we want. We see this one really good page, but it doesn't make up for those 10 bad pages that you just added.
Got it.
Yeah. And some of you guys might be running e-commerce websites. That's a big thing too. And that's certainly something that you guys need to consider. A lot of websites are built on the platform Magento, and I'll pull up this example here, and I'll try to keep it really non-technical and really simple. Again, this is something definitely for your developer. I don't expect that most small business owners can do this because you can break things really quickly and it can cost you a lot to get them fixed.
But the thing is, I like that you're going into this because it's good for the average person even to be aware of this. And we're going to have the SEO people looking at this, but then they know what to bring to their developer too.
So everybody's been to a website, an e-commerce website, and you can see these different category setups here. Again, an appropriate time to use categories. But let's take a look at mugs and drinkware. And what I really want you guys to do is pay attention to this URL up here, mugs-drinkware, and that's what that's called. Now what we can see is there are 12 items on this page, and pay special attention to this 25-ounce aluminum Alpine sports bottle. Now watch what happens when I click 36. You can see that a whole new URL has been generated up here, and this creates duplicate content in Google because Google will index this. Even though you can see the content here is almost identical. Again, you see that we've got this 25-ounce aluminum Alpine sports bottle right here along with similar products. So again, every single time that we change the sort by, let's sort by A to Z now. And we've got the Bahama Mama mug. But again, if we move back to the 12, we've got the same mug there again. So you see how duplicate pages were created, even though this was definitely not the intention of the site owner. They just simply want to give people a nice, easy way to navigate their website and be able to sort and find what they want. And it sounds like a good user experience, and it definitely is, but it's just also giving Google the proper signals of what not to do when they come and visit the website. Because remember, this is a robot, and the robot wants to follow instructions. So you need to give them instructions. So this is very technical, and I won't go into it too much, but there's a main file called robots.txt.
Okay.
I'll just visit that really quick.
Sure.
Like the instruction manual for robots when they come to your website and they crawl. So when Google's robot or Googlebot comes to your website, you want to give them specific information. So for example, sitemap is listed here, and this is list of the products so Google can find them. But there's sometimes places you don't want Googlebot to go, such as, for example, this website does not want them to go to customer register. this page here. You can also tell Google and other bots to not go to specific folders. So for example, if we didn't want them to go to the folder samples, maybe we had some promo in there and we didn't want Google to index that because it was a duplicate of a different product that we had, except for this time it was discounted heavily because maybe we ran a Groupon. And so we tell Google to disallow anything in that folder. And then we'll do one more really quick that is really important, I think, for e-commerce owners to see.
Okay.
Is that there are many pages like this that we saw that were duplicate content, but you'll see that they're dynamically generated. And usually that comes from a question mark in the URL. So what you can ask your developer to do is add this tag, disallow wildcard question mark, and that means don't index, or Google, don't put this page into the index if it's got a question mark into it. Anything before that. And what this does is it tells Google, hey, we might already have a page like that in the index. So as you can see, these are some really simple ways that you can tell Google, what you want them to do on the website. Now, from time to time, we'll see that business owners have made this mistake, and they're like, well, what can we do? We've clicked some buttons, but these pages are still in the index. It takes a while for Google to drop these pages out. What Google has is a great resource here called Webmaster Tools. And this is a really, really powerful tool, and you really need to know what you're doing because you can mess up a lot of stuff on your website. I'm just going to show you a really detrimental example. Is you could click Remove URLs, create a new removal request. If you left this blank and hit Continue, you would tell Google to remove your entire website from its index, and then you would never get found. So that doesn't sound good.
No, not at all.
So that's really powerful. But let's say I was this any promo company, and again, I wanted to get rid of anything with sample in it. I could just simply do this and hit Continue, and that would remove any pages with the in the folder sample. That way, those no longer impact me and damage my website. So, for example, as a WordPress site owner, maybe you're going to do tag or tags, depending on how it was set up. Or maybe there's author, because you have the author inside of it. And so these are a couple quick ways to do this. And how quickly does this take effect? This is under 24 hours for Google to remove these from their index. Whereas with robots, maybe if you've got 1 million pages on your website because of all the duplicate products, maybe that takes 6 months, maybe that takes a year for that to go away, and nobody wants to wait for that. You're losing money and you're losing traffic as a business. And I know, Janet, as the, just hosting this webinar here and these video series, you want to help business owners grow their business and put cash right into their pocket. And this is one thing that maybe they're doing wrong that this is going to add to their bottom line. And these are just small little pro tips from the industry that can really make a big difference.
Cool. Yeah, and we all know SEO takes, they should know at least, it takes some time, but it's nice to learn the little tricks that can be a little bit faster. So that's really good tips. Cool.
And so I'll just leave it with one other or two other things.
Okay.
There are a lot of real estate agent guys out there. Everybody wants to build their business. And another example where we see this occurring is with MLS listings. And everybody wants to feature every single home on their website. But again, this is duplicate content because it's already on somebody else's website first. And so it doesn't really help that you're pulling in those Zillow listings. It doesn't really help that you're pulling them in for, I think it's called Trulia. They're already somewhere else on a more authoritative website. And somebody isn't going to find you via search for that property listing. They're probably going to browse your website and then start searching and sorting and using the navigation. So again, those are things you can have on the website, but you want to no index them in Google.
Great tip, because I would assume everybody feels like they need to index, because that's what we've been told, And so some things are important to index, is what you're showing us and telling us, and some things you just don't want to index.
And so then my final tip that I've got is, take a good look at your website and take a good look at the content. There's one really powerful tool out there called Copyscape, and this is a plagiarism check. And what this can do is, you can run this across your website and your content. Sometimes people outsource content, and what we discover is there's a lot of dishonesty in the, in the business from writers. And, it's not to say it's everyone. There's a small percentage, but what they'll do is they'll copy content, and then it's essentially stolen because it's been published somewhere else. Now you're putting that content on your website, and you think that it's unique, and you're saying, this is on my service page, this is on my About Us page, but maybe it's just a generic template that's been used, and recycled hundreds and hundreds of times. And that's not really what you want either. So you can use this tool, copyscape.com, just to check and see if your content is good on your website. Now, I just want to also make this very clear. A lot of times, people will take content from your website and either link back to you, or sometimes they won't. And that's okay if they link back to you. Now, sometimes when they don't and it appears to be stolen, you're trying to decide, well, should I go after this? But a lot of times, Google has figured out who is the original author. And they know that you're the first originator of that content. And so every time somebody takes that content from you and posts it somewhere, you're getting credit for that, whether or not they give you a link.
Wow. Wow. See, now that is fantastic. So can you repeat that in a little bit of a different way? I just want to make sure that we make sure that point comes out. And you know what? Do you want to come back on screen? I'm like talking to words. I'm talking to Webmaster Tools.
Okay,
so
cool. Another good way to reiterate that is, and let's combine it with social, which is your specialty. So we're going to create this. We're going to put this on YouTube, and really, it's your content. You're the one that owns it. And now, essentially, what you have is people going out and taking that, and putting it in places. And when you look at that, oftentimes there's an embed, but there's not always a link back to it. They don't cite your source or cite, your original website. But you can see that Google knows that you're the content creator, and they're giving you credit, and it's building your authority and authorship. So that's just another way of looking at it from a different perspective.
Got it. That's a great, I love that end on that, because I think people need to know that piece too. You taught us so many different things. Some was just at our level that anybody can do, and some was up here. But it's good to know all the information that you taught. So, Jacob, what I'd like to do is, now let's say somebody's listening and they have questions, want to reach out to you. Where's the best place to get a hold of you?
Yeah, they can go to www.orangefox.com, and what this is a resource for small businesses and even larger corporations just trying to figure out, well, how can we do SEO? How can we do it in-house? And just to kind of get the basics, and it really enables you and gives you leverage when you're working with an agency, just because you know something and you can speak their language, and you're not going to get ripped off, you're not going to get taken advantage of, because so much in our industry it's often sold as kind of like snake oil. And this is just kind of a resource for business owners just to kind of get a grip on what SEO actually is, and how they could implement some of the small and basic things themselves.
Cool. Well, I appreciate your time, and I appreciate all the tips that you taught us, Jacob.
Thank you so much for having me, Janet.
Yeah, thank you.